Hello, this is Pat Walker at MissionWinners.com, and I am making a video for Seetharam. And if I mispronounce your name, please accept my apologies. I am not trying to be rude. I'm just looking at it, and it looks like it's Seetharam or Seetharam. And again, I please accept my apologies. I would never do anything out of disrespect. So thank you very much. And by the way, I'm glad that you're a recent member, that you're new to the team, and welcome aboard, and thank you for the kind compliments about liking the work. I think that's great. You ask an excellent question. How do you get out of trades once you buy the stock at the trigger price? And you use the example, and I really appreciate it, on Apple. So I'm looking at the chart right now, and what we're going to do, we're going to back this up. The high on this bar right here, and you know this because this is what you cited. If you look over here, you see the H? The high on this bar is 222.99. So as you stated, and you're right, what would our entry be? 223 if it took out 223 on volume. So let's advance it one day, and we're going to assume that on this day it did take out the highs, and we bought it at 223 or 223.10. Several things that we want to see. Number one, we want to see price action where it pushes above this price and it continues moving above this price that day. We want that action to be confirmed by increasing volume. Now I know on this bar it doesn't show it, but in our assumption, in our example, we're going to assume that it took out the highs of this bar on this day, it moved up, and it moved up on a heavier volume. That would be positive. Kind of similar to like this day right here. This little congestion zone, it took out the highs of these 2 days and it did it on a pickup in volume. The next day it went higher on heavier volume. The next day it went higher on heavier volume. As you can see, each day it has continually higher volume. That's what we want to see. So in this assumption, we assume that it took that out. Now, here's your question, and I like it. We got in. When do you get out if it drifts down? Very good question. And we have a couple of rules. This is why we are very stringent with our chart patterns. If it takes out the top of this little base, we don't want it to move back below the top of this base. We'll say we bought it for 223.10. What we have found through 30 years of doing this, the best stocks will do this. You see this little, in fact, I'm going to show something here. This might be a better example. Let's do the real world. Little shelf right here, going sideways. The next day, it takes out the tops of these two bars on a pickup in volume. What do we not want to see? If it starts to fall back into this base below the highs of these two bars, I'll even do this for you. Watch this. Look at that. If it falls back into here, we're going to sell half our shares off, if not all of it. So let's advance it one. So we bought this right here, taken out, and I think we did actually, to tell you the truth. The next day it goes up, and it does it on a pickup in volume. What are we going to do here automatically? We are going to raise our stop up to at least at break even. We are not going to let a 2-point profit turn into a loss. The next day it continues going up. But notice something very important here. It has a higher low here, a higher low here, and a higher low on this bar. And again, it's good the volume's picking up. Now check this bar out. Look at this. It gapped up just a little bit. It ran up, but notice how it closed on this bar. It closed at its midpoint. What does that tell us? Well, let's analyze this. On this bar, it closed near its highs. This bar closed kind of at its midpoint, but not bad. This point closed near its highs. This bar closed at its midpoint. That is normally a flag, a red flag saying you might want to sell a little bit into strength. Now it continued to move up here. Suppose you took a little bit off, and then it did this, and it starts to do this. Now, let's get back to your question, though. If we bought this, in fact, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll go back to your example. If we bought this, taking out the highs of this bar, if price starts to fall back into this bar, into this range of this bar, we're going to sell off half our shares. because I showed in the example right here, the best ones push away. If it doesn't push away on volume, we will become defensive possibly the same day that we buy it. We're not day trading, but we never want to have a serious problem. If by chance this pushed up and then the next day it went higher and then it fell and took out the lows of the previous day, we may sell some off, which leads to another rule. We are not going to let a multi-point profit turn into a loss. We will sell our shares. We may sell half into strength and the other half, when it comes down to our purchase price, we will sell the rest. What you will find through time is that the best stocks just push away in price. They don't, like right here, this little shelf right here in June, just walks away, pulls back a little bit, but it stays above the rising 8-day. We have cushion. The best ones will just grind on up. Look at this. You buy it here, right here, maybe you'd sell a little bit because look at the volume, and it took out the previous day's lows. But see what happens here. A higher low on this day, a higher low on this day, a higher low, a higher low, a higher low, a higher low. This day it gaps up and takes out the lows. What would we do here? Sell a little bit more off. Why would we not sell all of it? Because it's staying above the 8-period moving average, and we have a profit cushion. The moral is this: when we first buy it, we are extremely tight and stringent with our stops. We don't want it fading on us. So let's go back to Apple again, okay? Right here, taking out the tops of this bar. If it had, it didn't, but if it had, and on this same bar, it starts to fall back into this range right here, these highs across these two bars, we will sell off 1/2, if not all of our shares to avoid a problem. So when you get out, if it just drifts down, if it's taking out the highs of these previous price bars, that is a trigger point. Is there a set stop loss? Yes, there always is. It's 2 of them. Taking out the previous day's highs, definitely selling before it takes out the previous day's lows, and never, never, never risk more than 3 to 5% on that trade. Never. We run it tight. This is why, sir, we are very, very stringent with our entries in our chart patterns. We want to make sure that we buy at precise times in the chart so that it can just get away from us. Right here, a little shelf right here. It just pushes away. That's what we're looking for. I always say this, and you've probably heard me say it. A clean and simple entry will give us a clean and simple exit to minimize losses. I'm going to show you one that we did last year just to show you an example of what I'm talking about. A nice long base, and it lifts off on a pickup in volume here. Remember we talked about higher highs and higher lows? A higher high and a higher low, a higher high and a higher low, a higher high and a higher low. The high on this bar is 1303. The high on this bar is 1303. Didn't take out the previous highs, but it also didn't take out the previous lows. But do you see the trend right here? This is exactly why we are very, very stringent focusing on longer bases. You will find that you will have better profits focusing on longer, clean and simple bases. Let's go back in time. Like this. Look at that. That's really clean and simple. There's nothing fancy there. Take out these highs, buy it. And it does it. And this is how we know, and I say this too. People talk with their mouths and vote with their pocketbooks. Look at when it took out the tops. Look at the volume pickup. They voted. They bought it. Went up again. Heavier volume. Went up again on less volume, but still didn't take out the previous day's lows. We run it like a business, monitoring it very closely. And again, The best ones will do this, and they won't fall back into that base. They just go. So I hope that helps you. I thank you. It is a great question. We will always focus on clean and simple entry with a tight, clean base because it gives us a precise exit point also. I thank you very much, and I hope you have a good weekend.